Formula 2001 products today.
Coverage of the 1995 NFL Draft is brought to you by Taco Bell and new Border Light Burritos. Fast food, not fat food. And by Formula 2001. It's a technological breakthrough. Formula 2001 Super Protectant provides advanced protection against UV rays.
And welcome back to the draft here in New York. You just got a look at Sid Brooks, the longtime equipment manager of the San Diego Chargers. The man responsible for bringing back one of the men who had all those beautiful lightning bolts jerseys that came back for a while. Sid working the phones here as the Chargers are on the clock. There have been 12 up and downs in the first round already, and we have 4 picks to go. Here's the trade that just happened that you heard Chris Myers announce, usurping the power from the commissioner. The Cowboys getting a pair of seconds from the Buccaneers in exchange for the first-round pick, the 28th selection, for Derrick Brooks, as Gary Danielson correctly pegged, went to the Buccaneers, and Gary's with Sam Weiss now. Gary, way to go.
Chris, what do I win first? I guess nothing, but I get to talk to Sam again. You got 2 players that are going to start for this football team. Really a successful draft for you so far.
Well, we think so. And, you know, everybody's done their part. Rich has done a great job for this so far today. We started out with 3 picks in the first 3 rounds. We parlayed it now into 2 first-round picks, and we still have a second-round pick, a high second-round pick, yet to go, and we maybe get another starter yet today.
You were in the room just a few minutes ago saying there's some guys on the board I might be willing to move up for. Obviously, Derrick Brooks. First thing you walked in here and said 4.65. I don't know, it might be a little faster than that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we clocked him in under 4.5, about a 4.47 in the 40. Undersized, undersized guys can play big, and this guy can play big and he can play fast.
He's a tackler, outside linebacker. He fits right into a spot where you have a great need.
Well, it's a perfect fit for us. We're short in pure numbers of linebackers. We played a 4-2 last year. We need one more linebacker to play a 4-3 with Rusty Tillman, our new coordinator. He's a perfect fit.
I guess the only question, Sam, is can the Canes and the Knowles play together? That's the big question.
Hey, add up all of the Florida guys we have on this football team. Don't forget, we got some other schools here in Florida, too.
Keep them straight.
Yeah.
For the other side of this trade, let's now head to Dallas and Chris Myers. Chris?
God damn it, this is a nightmare.
Well, I'm another Chris. We'll get to Chris Myers in just a second down in Dallas, as Dallas now slides down about 10 spots, so we'll hear from them eventually. San Diego is now on the clock, and you would think, especially with what everybody's memory is of the Super Bowl with the Chargers, but then again, the way the 49ers are running offense, I don't know that anyone was going to stop them on that day or in that playoff run. The San Diego Chargers, such a marvelous season, a team picked for the doormat of the AFC West, picked to finish dead last for 5th in the AFC West. They not only win the division, they go all the way to the Super Bowl, come from behind over Miami, come from behind over Pittsburgh. Team showing a maturity way beyond its years. It's been very busy. They've changed the secondary. They lose the sheriff, Stanley Richard, in the defensive backfield. They pick up Sean Gale and Bo Orlando, and Dawn has some new safeties. They also lose Carrington, the safety, the expansion draft. Whitley was a valuable backup to Courtney Hall on the line that they lose. They also, at the end of the line for Stan Brock. But they lose a guy with one of my favorite nicknames, Eric Sleeping with Bieniemy, and the other Reggie White left. So the Chargers will have some wholesale changes, as you might as well raid a squad that went to the Super Bowl. So some of their players off the charts a little bit are now sprinkled around the league. So Bobby Beathard has some changes and maybe some work to do in the defensive backfield, but there's some other slots as well. As promised, first, though, before we move forward to the Chargers, let's go back to Dallas, and here's Chris Myers. Chris, you ready?
Kind of like the old days with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys wheeling and dealing. So you trade out of the first round, the 28th selection, for the 2 second-round picks of Tampa, along with your own. Jerry, was this primarily based on economics?
Well, no, it really was based on, we think there's some real fine players in that second and third round, and we really wanted to take our pick, and it was the best for the Cowboys to be down there in those second and third rounds. And then when you start looking, though, at what a first-round pick will get you, or moving up, For instance, if we were going to spend $1 million on a receiver, we'd have kept Alvin Harper. So, candidly, it worked fine for us.
Playing off of that, the 49ers and the Cowboys at 49ers, still the powers of the NFL, aggressively move into that spot to get J.J. Stokes. You weren't surprised by that, but do you sense that the powerhouse team is battling to stay there? I mean, do you have to keep up with the Joneses, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, let me say this. When you say powerhouse, thanks for including us along with the powerful San Francisco 49ers. But we're doing some of the things that we think will help the Cowboys the best. We need some key backup people in here and some people competing for spots in the future. We think this is our best way to get there.
All right, but briefly, what you do will have no bearing on what the 49ers do in this draft.
Well, no, I know that what we do, they're marching to their own beat, but certainly our decisions are based on improving our football team from our perspective, and certainly we want to get in better shape to beat the 49ers and a lot of other good teams as well.
All right, Jerry, thanks very much. Good luck with your 3 selections in the second round.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, for more on the draft and the San Diego Chargers, who may be wheeling and dealing, let's now go to Chris Mortensen.
Well, that's right, Chris. The Chargers have been on the phone talking trade with somebody. We're presuming teams like Carolina here or Jacksonville. Right now, there's a lot of offensive linemen grouped up. Brockermeyer, DeMarco, Derrick Brooks, O'Dwyer, and both those expansion teams are going to be competing for these offensive linemen. At the same time, San Diego would have been willing to trade up for a Hugh Douglas or a Mark Fields, and certainly Tyrone Poole going early probably disappointed them. So the defensive help they wanted here already gone. So they've been on the phone talking trade. If they can't trade, then I think you'll see him make a selection that it could be a safety, a Bobby Taylor, that type of thing. Let's go back to Chris in New York right now.
All right, Mort, thank you. Bobby Taylor is a name that we'll discuss because a lot of folks had him pegged to go, the defensive back from Notre Dame by this point. San Diego, Cleveland, Kansas City, Green Bay. 4 picks left in the first round. We'll be back after this.
The graduate.
So, Nikki, any plans now that high school's over?
You know, it's going to work for me. Not if you're smart.
You know what I think you should do? Stay close to home. You got plenty of time to work.
Take the first thing that comes along, Nick.
Give Anthony a call. So what are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to study nuclear propulsion for satellite navigation in the Navy.
Oh, great.
Way to go, Nick. For more information on the high-tech skills that can help launch a career, call 1-800-USA-NAVY.
From across the seas, Beck's delivers the grand tradition and taste of the German art of brewing. Beck's, the #1 imported German beer.
At the end of the day, more top mechanics in America choose One Motor Oil over any other brand to help keep their own cars running longer. Valvoline Motor Oil. People who know use Valvoline.
Rule number 45, board checking. Rule number 25, to play the game, use a puck. The Blues and the Stars will shine Tuesday. The NHL rules on ESPN2.
Now we are back in New York as there's under 2 minutes to go on the San Diego Chargers. For their pick, the defending champions of the AFC. Bobby Taylor was a name we mentioned. Newsome might be the defensive backs. Well, here's the Chargers, certainly down the stretch. They were torched through the air, although, like we said, those playoff wins over Miami and over Pittsburgh were just so resounding. It showed the gumption of this football squad. The Super Bowl was another story. But you got to think of pass defense, and that could mean something else, speed at linebacker other than Junior Seau. I mean, it's not just defensive backs in this situation.
No, not at all. Bobby likes Mike Morton, the linebacker from North Carolina. Bobby Taylor is an interesting kid. Came out early as a junior, but not after a very good season at Notre Dame. Didn't make a lot of big hits. Had that great play against Florida State where he sacked the quarterback, picked up the fumble, ran in for a touchdown. But even prior to that and after that, wasn't an intimidator, wasn't throwing his body around the field. And there's the debate. Is he a cornerback? Is he a free safety? Some defensive coordinators I spoke to thought he could play corner early in his career. Then after he loses a step, naturally move inside to a free safety spot. But this is a kid that came as a junior gambling that clubs would look at his athletic ability and maybe not look as much at the poor junior campaign.
Well, what happens sometimes, too, is you get an agent that says, well, gee whiz, corners make more money than safeties. Bobby Taylor's a corner. Well, the point is maybe he's not a corner. Maybe he's a safety. He's a big guy, I'll grant that, outside, but he doesn't have the cover skills of, say, a Poole on the outside. And as far as safety goes, he hasn't been able to lay the lumber down as, say, a Melvin Johnson would, a guy who would take your head off at the blink of a hat, which really amounted to all of Kentucky's defensive stars. So, I mean, he's really a tweener, and I think that's what's hurting him here.
Well, the word of a trade, Chris Mortensen, let's go down to you and check it out.
Carolina's making a move here. They've just traded up into San Diego's spot, and I can only presume it's for one of these offensive linemen, be it Brockermeyer, Brooks, DeMarco, O'Dwyer. It's going to be interesting to see who they select right here, Chris.
Well, I think, again, that the offensive line, we thought that more of them, there'd be a couple more gone by this point in the draft. That's the position, I think, Mel, that's lagged a little bit behind. And, Mort, I believe you have hit the names. I think Brockermeyer is right on the head. I think that's the pick if Carolina makes this trade and goes up, because they were not sure that Poole would be there. I didn't think they think they'd both be there in the 20s to make that move and get up. The commissioner has the official word on the trades. Go to the podium.
San Diego has traded the 29th pick to the Carolina Panthers. And the Panthers have selected a tackle from the University of Texas, Blake Brockermeyer. In return for the trade, San Diego acquires from Carolina's 3 picks. A second-round pick, number 34, in this draft. The Carolinas supplemental pick in the 3rd round, which is number 98 in this draft. And Carolina's pick at the beginning of the 4th round, which is number 100 in this draft.
Well, I can tell you this. In our talks with Bill Poley and the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, gave me 3 names of folks that he hoped would be available in the low 20s, and maybe they could make a move up to get one of them. Douglas was gone. Poole and Brockermeyer were the other 2 names that he had on his board. So Carolina's come up. They're looking for starters. They figure that maybe picks a little bit later on in the draft won't be necessarily starters. But here you go with an offensive lineman, Brockermeyer, to go with Poole as well, the corner, and then move down to get Collins. So Carolina's been very active, certainly lately. Let's go to Coach Gottfried in our studios in Connecticut. Blake Brockermeyer. Do you like him, Coach?
And Blake Brockermeyer comes out of a system, John Makovic, a pro system where he threw the football, did a lot of things in the running game. Blake Brockermeyer brings a lot to the table. First thing is he's got real good feet. Delivers a blow here in their ball game versus Baylor. Just good, strong down block. But you see, he stays on the block, even though the running back's breaking behind him. Second thing I like about him is people like to run the counter tray. He can pull at his size. You see the ability to pull, go out, block on the outside linebacker, touchdown for Texas. The other thing I like about him is he's an athlete. He can adjust on the move. Here he's going to block down. No one's there, comes back, makes the block on the linebacker. Pretty good athlete, Blake Brockermeyer. But again, I think the system at Texas will help him in his pro development. Chris, back to you.
All right, Coach, thank you. This is the first time that a team has had 3 first-round picks, as Carolina has had since 1988, where Terry McDaniel was a first-round pick, Tim Brown was a first-round pick, and Scott Davis was a first-round pick. So Kerry Collins, Tyrone Poole, Blake Brockermeyer. It's the first time since the Raiders, and 2 of those players who mentioned, Brown and McDaniel, have been to the Pro Bowl. So, boy, they can follow along that line, Mel. That'll work. Juniors now, they creeping up a little bit?
They're getting in there, Chris. We had 33 total to start out, and they're starting to come off the board. And, of course, you remember Ki-Jana Carter, number 1 pick overall, Mike Mamula, Derek Alexander. Warren Sapp would have been higher, probably had it not been for some of those allegations. And Salam and Ty Law. Bobby Taylor, Jack Jackson, the wide receiver from Florida, coming up. But Taylor really athletically is the next best junior on the board.
I agree.
Well, it took, let's see, 5 hours and 10 minutes. And we agree. We agree. 3 picks left in the first round. Cleveland, Kansas City, and the Packers, who